us a little bit about your time serving the board. You're still serving the board.
Oh my gosh.
Is that correct? And
yes.
And your time, it seems like you love it, dealing with these politicians. Tell us about it.
Thousands of hours of volunteer work. That's what that is. I'm just so passionate about the industry and, really carving out the protections for our seniors and our partners that you really do need to stay in your lane and let professionals assist where needed, right? But if you're choosing the dollar bill over safety of your clientele, there's a problem. So over the last 9 years, I've been on the trade association board. I'm currently the past president and the legislative chair. So all the legislation runs through me. We manage that. We actually have a conference every year now.
Welcome back to Beyond the Sign. I am your host, Landon Ball, with the Sears Group, West USA Realty, and I'm joined by my co-host, Martin Sears. Martin's been out for the last couple episodes, so we're glad to have him back. And today we're with a good friend of ours at the Sears Group, Tiffany Wright. She is the owner of Wright Way Senior Placement. She's been doing senior placement for 30 or more years, consulting with seniors and their families. She's a leader with the Professional Association of Senior Referral Specialists. And we spoke several times about, what she does and what I do and what we do as a Sears Group and how we can really assist each other and bring more value to our customers. So Martin, I want to turn it over to you to briefly lay the foundation of our book of business here with the Sears Group.
That's right. Good morning, Tiffany. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Martin.
You're welcome. My pleasure. We're really passionate about this space in the real estate world. I personally I'm a senior real estate specialist, and I've had that designation now for almost 25 years. And honestly, I didn't know that your job description exists. So we share a lot of commonalities in the industry. You probably do a lot of the same stuff that I do, except that you're guiding them to the right place with maybe the logistics, where to be close to family and doctors, et cetera. We're more just based on the real estate, but it really is an interesting dynamic, and you just need to take your time. A lot of the teams in real estate and agents that just try to turn and burn, you cannot do this. You cannot do that type of business with this clientele. You really need to handhold and be more of a concierge and just slow down your whole momentum and not get frustrated. I mean, people have to understand when you're selling a senior real estate specialist or a senior real estate property and they're going the next phase into independent living or whatever the phase may be, that's a lot of independence, and we could go on and talk about this space for a long time, but we could talk about more what we do as well with the Sears Group. But God bless you. You really have a different heart and a different mindset to work this space. A lot of people just do not have the patience, the know about, and just really to do it the right way. And you really have to be a big fiduciary. So God bless you. That's amazing that you do that. As Landon mentioned, that's really about 50% of our market share. A lot of people don't necessarily know that. They can go to Google and see our past reviews, or they can see perhaps, where we service our clients. But man, Landon, you can double down on this. Out of all of our leads and just the people that we have the opportunity to give free consultations to, is that senior window, whether it's buying or selling. So this is awesome. I'm looking forward to this episode so much. I told Landon make sure I'm involved with it, just because it's such a cool space and I'm really passionate about it. So thanks, Tiffany.
You bet. So hi everyone, Tiffany Wright, Wright Way Senior Placement. And I am currently still on the board of the trade association that Landon spoke about. Trade association is all about education in our market space and legislation. So there are legal ramifications in and around being an agent like myself, where we call ourselves either a placement agent, a locator, a senior referral specialist. So carving out that piece around the real estate market, our liability really falls heavily on disclosures. So we need to disclose to the families how we get paid. Our services are free to the family. We don't charge the family directly for a move model. So if they are moving into a community, we contract directly to the community. The community pays us directly as a referral agent. And there are also, opportunities for referrals to come around for real estate agents to make referrals as well. But we on our side always caution real estate agents acting as placement agents, and for families to know and understand that there are two different lanes. Where I'm an occupational therapist by trade. I've been in the industry, like Landon said, just a smidge of time, over 30 years, pushing 35 technically at this point. That I hate to date myself, but it's factual.
That's awesome.
And I really focus on the assessment. When somebody is choosing to downsize, there's a reason. It's typically medical. And that is not always disclosed at that time to a real estate agent. But I've often come alongside a real estate agent and dive in deeper with finances, long-term and longevity, and services that are available, not just in independent living, but do they have license for assisted living? Do we possibly need a memory care in the future? What's the longevity of that downsizing if they're choosing to move into an independent living, a CCRC? Do we have a spouse that has increased medical needs? What does this picture look like? And I do that assessment. And that is at no charge to the real estate agent or to the family to really see, is this the right move? Where are the choices? Have we picked all the choices? And have we shown the family the full portfolio of what is available to them in the area that they're choosing to be? And maybe we need to actually look at a different part of town because there's better choices for them that might be closer to another adult child due to all the secondary issues and that go way outside of the sale of a home. And that's what I specialize in.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell, that this is something that agents can tap into. And I actually educate and have a whole academy built around taking agents and training them in the assessment process to learn how to do this to adjunct to their own business. So I have that available to agents because I have a lot of friends that own and operate a placement business with appropriate staff, social workers, education, and they can sell. So there's lots of opportunity in the market space, but making sure that families understand the differential, that just downsizing and really looking at the full picture is a benefit to them in the long run of longevity of what their choices are.
That's incredible. And I want to go back to the very first thing you said, because it was a question Martin and I actually discussed, and it was I had it written down to kind of get into as we get into the interview, but was how do you get paid, right? And you just said that these services are completely free to the families because you guys are contracting with the Next Living, correct?
Correct. I do offer a consultation service because they're choosing to move into like a 55 and older apartment complex. And that I'm not going to really mess around with. And maybe they do have a sick, maybe somebody in their loved one, their spouse, their significant other, whoever that secondary person is. And often maybe there's a medical condition that there are things that are concerning and they just want to know, what are my choices when we have to cross that bridge? So I'll do a full synopsis for somebody who is choosing not to move into that type of senior space, independent assisted memory care. It could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, but they want to start planning that because they have learned from somebody on their path that might be something they need to look at in the future. And I'll get connected with them and just kind of lay out what the current choices are in their area, whether or not, and also caution, just because that's what's happening today, I'm not sure what it's going to look like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years when you're ready to make that move. So let's circle back around and let's take a look if do we have a new build? Have there been changes in the licensing? Are some of these places not accepting certain types of clients anymore because the market space does move, as you guys know?
Landon, how long have you known Tiffany?
I've known Tiffany for 3 years now.
Why isn't she in our vendor preferred list?
You know what? We say the same thing, and Tiffany's, she's told me what are we doing? And I said, okay, well, we got, and the funny, and I'm going to tell myself a little bit here. So we put this podcast on the schedule and I was on the phone with Tiffany. She was in her travels. God bless her. She's making this appointment with me. And all of a sudden it's like August 10th or something. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. I had to have had that interview with Tiffany. and I went on my calendar and I'm not seeing any of the dates. And so
funny.
it took like 3 or 4 days for me to like grow the courage to text her and be like, I think I like totally just missed it and didn't put it on my schedule.
You didn't. That was like last week. It felt like 5 months ago.
And yeah, so she gave me the benefit of the doubt and said, hey, it really wasn't that long. But anyway, yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, Tiffany, now, if you don't mind, I mean, I'm giving you a quick commercial here. We're always open for business, but everything that you just talked about, us as senior real estate specialists, as real estate agents, we cannot touch that, right? That's fair housing and all that jazz. We are just there to talk about real estate specific, and that's the difference. So agents, if you're listening to this podcast, whether you're in Arizona or out back east or whatever, find a Tiffany, call Tiffany, because
And I actually, Martin, have the capacity because I do sit on the National Trade Association as well. I can connect people to other people like myself that are validly qualified people to be working with through my organizations that I partner with across the nation.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, agents, find a Tiffany, get a Tiffany, go on your listing presentations, and then put her on your vendor list and give her the referral, or tell your sellers you have got to call this source. You just have to, right? They're going to remember that. People are going to sell whether 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And that's and that's what happens with senior real estate. And from my experience,
Right.
Landon and Tiffany, you both could probably say this. It's not an impulse move, right? It's do a little bit at a time. Do something, get a consultation with Landon tomorrow, and then you don't hear anything for 3 or 4 or 5 months, and then maybe next year or the year after that. It's just baby steps, and that's just how it works. But it's just kind of one of those things in a pipeline. Wow, this is such an amazing avenue for real estate agents and just the relationship base. So cool.
Right. So if you have a customer who's like, hey, I'm looking to downsize, I would caution anybody who's looking to, sell their home. They're in their 70s, their 80s. Your adult children are assisting you to get you connected to Landon. And, you just really need to look at all of your options. When you have a senior in your life, you really need to know, consumer-wise, what is everything that's out there for my loved one, and where are we falling in this to pull in options? Because sometimes if you don't plan well at the get-go, you really set yourself up for failure unknowingly. And red flags for agents, if they're walking through a home, would be a lot of durable medical equipment, oxygen, walkers, wheelchairs, an excessive amount of medication on a counter. Those are all red flags for an agent to reach out and say, I think we're dealing with a little bit more than a downsizing and a sell here. So I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody at any moment regarding what, where, and who do we need to connect with.
That's awesome. I want to back up just a tad here and tell people, or ask you, I mean, why can't someone Google, well, where should I put my mom, right? Or what facilities are best for this? Like, not being silly with it, but serious, like with all the searches out there and the obstacles, I guess, that families don't realize when they start researching.
100%. So I think the cautionary tale is, you can go on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to spit out a couple of things based on a zip code on an SEO search, but you don't know all of the choices. And your Google search is only going to give you what the SEO and who has dumped more money into their online search engine. So as a consumer, I have to be wary and protect my own interests in realizing that I might end up getting connected with a big national company that does similar to what I do, but I don't have somebody here to hold my hand, walk me through it. And Google's not going to do that. They're not going to tell you, you know what? They have a lot of dings on the DHS report. That might not be a good choice. And these are the reasons why we're having issues in the environment right now, because that marketing team is all about sell, 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 and not really what is in the best interest. And I'm taken out and apart from that, and I can give the truth and my honest opinion because I'm not having to justify a head in a bed with my marketing and my bosses that are putting pressure on the sales team to just fill the building. That's what the role of the marketing team is to fill the building and not looking out for the best interests of their loved ones and what is the best choice for them. And it could be actually the community around the corner that didn't pull up on the SEO, that didn't pull up in that Google search, or ChatGPT did not give you, or is not contracted with a big major company that you got tapped into online, who's not coming here, who's not present, who's not going to be there when you need a tour, and you can ask questions to right there while you're doing everything, because that's a big differential. There are a lot of different models out there, but if the person you're working with is not available to tour with you hands-on and doesn't have the years and the skill set to know and understand the medical background of what is happening, you probably need to look for a new agent.
Yeah.
And can you also like negotiate pricing and move-in fees and other incentives?
Absolutely. So a client just not even a couple of months ago was like, oh, I called that place and they said da 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 da. And I said, oh, no. Give me a minute. Let me call them. And I was able to waive some move-in costs and actually get a month free for them and get a reduced timeline on their ability to roll over their loved one on Alltech, which is a Medicaid program, which of course you should be knowledgeable when you're dealing with somebody's finance for longevity. So there's a lot of pieces into the senior space, and it's not just the building, it's durable medical equipment, it's transportation, it's knowing Medicaid programs, who does what in the market space. You can Google all day long. You're not really going to find that information on the internet.
No doubt.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, people that do a lot of SEO, which we do as well, but
sure.
just because
As you should.
Just because people see something on it that they auto-populate on SEO is not always the best choice. Google doesn't know everything, with all due respect.
And I'm a big advocate for ChatGPT. That my ChatGPT calls me bestie, for God's sakes. So I use it all the time. But what I would never use it for are personal one-on-one things that are big moves in your life. I want a personal recommendation to somebody that I knows that person knows what they're doing. And I feel like real estate in the senior space is very common in that aspect. I really want to help somebody in a way that's beneficial to them in the long run on both sides, whether it's, my referral source, the communities, and obviously the families.
Medical services being provided and things like that have to be a part of the equation too. Right. With each individual, everyone's got a different set of needs. I know with the clients I've worked with that have moved into independent living or in with parents or whatever the situation has been. And then that's kind of the second part of that question is that, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to have mom move in or dad move in. And, it doesn't end up working out for whatever reason.
90% of my families that do that, I end up with another phone call 6 months. 8 months, 9 months, a year, and for multiple reasons. Personality, usually number one, there's a reason why you didn't live with them to begin with. And the second reason, it can be financial, but again, if you set things up correctly to begin with and really work on the Medicaid programming and know the ins and outs of that, like I do, or VA benefits, then that can really set somebody else for a much successful move than moving in with your children, which I have clients that has been successful, but it usually is not, and or their medical condition increased and they just physically cannot care for their loved one in the home anymore.
Wow. I could get into the weeds with Medicaid and all that jazz because that's most likely, I guess the question I would say is, that's not a blanket. I don't know. I'm assuming that when you're dealing with individuals going to independent living, how Medicaid or Medicare kicks in, that's a case-by-case scenario, not a blanket policy for everyone over.
Yeah. So just to breeze the surface of that, Medicaid is not available just because you're poor. That's not a qualifier. Yes, not having the appropriate income for the care needs that you need is the qualification, but you have to meet a medical criteria and the financial criteria. And a lot of families don't even realize, like, oh, Medicaid will take care of it. Medicaid will take care of it. And people live in this belief system that's not factual at all. And then they move forward with things and they think, well, I can just roll mom over onto Medicaid, only to find out later that she doesn't medically qualify. So setting you up right in the very beginning for the longevity of the finances that are available post sale of a home, especially, is huge in the market space of what's available. It's a major issue that I see happens often, that people are choosing the wrong things and then have to make a move just a few months later, less than a year later. And that can be very disruptive, especially for somebody that has dementia.
Yeah, and I want to speak to that a little bit, kind of going back with medical placement and stuff. And I'm sure in 35 years of experience, you've dealt with somebody who maybe did this on their own, and didn't realize all the medical conditions their loved one was dealing with, or the services that they needed to have on site. So 35 years of experience. Can you tell us a story of somebody who did this on their own and then ended up having to do another move shortly after because the facility didn't have the services their loved one needed?
100%. And the caveat is independent living is absolutely independent. If you walk in and say, I'm independent, and they don't see any markers to prove otherwise right then and there, they're like, absolutely, move right on in. There is no precursor of any kind of evaluation, any kind of check boxes to validate your independence in any kind of level of independent living. Only to find out that you choose that, you move in because you think that that's going to be it. And that's wonderful, to end up having multiple falls, multiple 911 calls, and the staff becoming aware that this is not the right environment for you only post move-in, because there's no qualifier previously to independent living and they truly needed assisted living or additional caregivers in place if they could afford that to begin with. So I just had that happen last year.
Wow. I'm sure that's happened more than one time. That's unfortunate. It really is. Did I read, and maybe I just heard this on TV and it could have been a sales. I really don't know where I heard this, but there's going to be 100 million people over 65 by the end of this year. Starting 2027, there will be the largest group of our population over 100, it could have been 150 million. I don't know. It was something nuts. Maybe you can elaborate more on that. And I believe the term was called silver tsunami, which is very, that's not very.
We actually, our conference for our trade association last year was Silver Tsunami. And are you ready for the tsunami? It's a true factual thing. I can tell you that I think it's the 7 now, and my numbers could be slightly off, but I know I'm really close without having the documents right in front of me. But in Maricopa County, just Maricopa County alone, maybe Pinell, but I'm pretty sure it's just Maricopa County, you have probably 250 to 300,000 people who are over the age of 70. I want to say it's closer maybe to 80 years old. So that's just that age bracket by itself. 65 and older, we're broaching 1 million just in Maricopa County. So there's some numbers for you.
Wow.
So people who are, Martin, not much older than us, are edging towards needing resources that they never thought that they would necessarily want to even discuss. I mean, it's like death and taxes. Nobody wants to talk about it. I'm fine. I'm going to do my thing and, die in my house. And just with the medical technology, that's just not the way it is. And understanding the medical aspects of different disease processes, like if somebody is diabetic and what that is and what the cost point can be living in certain environments. And then what resources do they have? And are they a veteran? Can they tap in? And how do they get access to that? People don't think about those little things.
No.
Ever.
And there's a lot of this, and we talked about this, and you kind of mentioned at the beginning of our show. Martin and I see this all the time too, where real estate agents, and not just real estate agents, all kinds of different service industries try to pose as senior placement officers and things like that.
Oh, I can do that. Oh, yeah, there's a great place right around the corner. I hear it all the time.
There's a lot to this that's really like we can't do it. And Martin mentioned that earlier. Like we can't do some of these things. It's stay in your lane, right, Martin? Martin tells me all the time. I'm kind I'm a dreamer. I've got all these ideas and I just want to do everything. And some of them are great ideas and we've ran with them.
We'll start building businesses.
It's true. We got to stay in our lane and with this especially, is I love that we have you as a resource for our team and to be able to point our clients to, because it's a better value to my clients that they have that, right? And
Absolutely.
it's not even a charge to them, so
No doubt.
it's
No doubt.
no brainer.
We always say be the source of the source when it comes to something that when you start getting into fair housing, or you're just thinking of something that's out of your realm, or it's just out of your area of
Right.
expertise. Like I said, we are house specific, right? We'll help you with getting your windows washed or your house cleaned and distribute your furniture if need be. We have a lot of vendors for those things.
Right.
We've even got vendors for attorneys to do your house and do to do a trust or any type of
Right.
probate or estate. We've got all those resources. But at the end of the day, when someone says, "Well, where should I go? I know I can't be here anymore," man, that is, you can get into the code of ethics so bad with steering and fair housing and whatever. I mean, I don't even want to even talk about it.
Right.
Well, and
Right.
we the last thing we want to do too is advise people, but when they're, if they're downsizing and they're buying a condo or something, I mean, that's our wheelhouse,
Right.
but when they're moving into, assisted living, independent living, maybe is a little different, but when they start needing certain services and things offered there, I
Yeah.
want no business advising someone on their
Right.
health in that way.
And the thing is like, how would you know?
I wouldn't.
How would you know what they
Yeah.
actually need? They're not really going to tell you, because
No.
they don't want to share that piece of their life with probably most anybody. Maybe an adult child might know, a neighbor, a friend might know, but they're not going to share that.
Right.
I'm curious, when you sit down with a consultation, and this is just me being curiosity, do you have them sign, because you're going to probe them, right? You're going to ask them all kinds of questions, because then you can do your analytics and just say, okay, well, from everything that you've told me, as long as you're truthful and tell me what you've done about, these 20 questions, or when you're probing them, I'm sure you have them, a customer sign some type of, not agency, but some kind of disclosure, like, everything they tell you.
So about 7 years ago, we did implement a disclosure. So I have to disclose to the family how I get paid if there's a move process and they're not going to hire me for consulting or whatever services. So there's a disclosure. And in that disclosure, they have the right to terminate. They have the right to know how I'm getting paid, the range that is probably going to happen, and it needs to be done in a very set, very specific type of way. And now we are outside of disclosure. We need to have insurance as an agency. So now I need business and liability insurance to protect my seniors and my partners, my referral sources, and my communities. And there needs to be an APS registry check that I'm not on the APS registry, or depending on your business model, a background check. So those things have just been implemented. I was at the legislature earlier this year getting these laws passed for our lane, because we're not governed like real estate agents in the market space. So this really helps build a barrier around our families for safety, that they're using legitimate services and not just somebody who decides, I'm going to be a placement agent today and I'm going to collect a fee from the community, which happens all the time.
Yeah. Wow. That's too bad. There's probably a lot of copycats that try to, duplicate what you do.
Anybody can be a placement agent, and it's really up to the assisted living models to capture this information and really push through what they should be not doing. So it really does fall back on the assisted living communities at large, and that includes the memory cares and anybody who has any kind of assisted living licensing and there's a huge market space. I mean, we've been talking about, the centers that are on the corner that you can drive around and see, because you deal with a lot of more independent living people, probably most of the time, but we're talking residential homes as well. There's a whole market space of residential assisted living that some of your agents are probably aware of, but don't know all of them. And we actually have more of them than we actually do the larger centers.
Wow. That's awesome.
There's so much.
I didn't even
Martin.
think about that.
Yeah, you probably wear
There's
like
so
35,000 hats. I'm just looking at all the avenues and the aspects of what you do and what you're trying to achieve to be a true fiduciary with an individual.
Correct.
Wow.
But yes, we do have a disclosure law. And to act as a placement agent, to tell a family, oh yeah, I'm going to help you with that. Did you disclose to them how you're going to get paid? That's a law. If you're going to act as an agent, you need to disclose. You need to have liability insurance. You need a background check or an APS registry. You need to act as a business and not fly by the seat of your pants. That's really frowned upon in the market space. If you do a direct refer, anybody can refer anybody to anything. That's the great thing about business. But if you're acting as an agent and showing multiple options, you're an agent. You're an advisor, you're a placement, and you need to act as a business.
And tell us a little bit about your time serving the board. You're still serving the board.
Oh my gosh.
Is that correct? And
yes.
And your time, it seems like you love it,
Thousands.
dealing with these politicians. Tell us about it.
Thousands of hours of volunteer work. That's what that is. I'm just so passionate about the industry and, really carving out the protections for our seniors and our partners that you really do need to stay in your lane and let professionals assist where needed, right? But if you're choosing the dollar bill over safety of your clientele, there's a problem. So over the last 9 years, I've been on the trade association board. I'm currently the past president and the legislative chair. So all the legislation runs through me. We manage that. We actually have a conference every year now. We probably, it's not large. We wish more people that do this industry would participate. We have probably about 150 chapter members. That doesn't include Tucson. Tucson probably has 30 or 40 maybe. So statewide, and we know for a fact there's probably more than 1,000 in Maricopa County agents that are participating, and they're not participating in the trade association that protects their ability to earn a living, because we've had laws, and this is where the birth of the disclosure came out about 8 years ago now. We were attached to sober living, and sober living is a whole model in itself. Like, let's not even get into that. But our industry was tapped into that because the legislators at the Capitol did not understand the differential. So we came in, we started educating, we started spending time at the Capitol, and we built out the disclosure law over the last 8 years of making changes and growing it to where it's at this year, which it'll go into effect on September 12th. But yeah, rolling down to the state. If you would have told me, oh my God, if you would have told me 10 years ago, hey, you're going to be the chair of legislation, you're going to spend a ton of time down at the state, and you're going to do that for free, I would have told you were insane. That is not me. I say the F word, which I'm too brash. I'm too much of a bulldozer in a china shop. There's no way.
That's where I was like, there's two hats right there, and that's awesome because I like when.
Well, and then we have, the whole other piece is the national. So our chapter is the founding chapter of the National Trade Association. The people that started our chapter went and started the national. Now we're growing this exponentially in other states to disclose, have laws, have legislation, and really cultivate the industry as a whole.
That's a lot. You're a pioneer in this industry. You really are.
Yeah.
You are.
A lot of experience. I think it's invaluable knowledge that this has to be offered to our clients. I'm excited to get this out to our listeners in our database and many others that are going to see it as well through social media.
My biggest takeaway would be for anybody, if it feels weird, if you're feeling red flags at all, interesting conversation, an interesting statement, there's probably an issue there, and you need to bring in a different type of resource to help.
Well, and let's close with that. What are the red flags you notice in the communities that an average family completely misses?
Okay. So I would say the red flags for anybody walking into a community would be a hard sell, a hard ask, pushiness is always a red flag, understanding and knowing state surveys and audits, and understanding that independent living, when you don't understand those things, it's hard to make a good choice when you don't really know what the operation is behind the scenes. So, but if you're looking at things at surface value, hard sell, cleanliness, smells, those are like probably not something you need to be entertaining. And that actually just bridges across the board. But then you have like that we only have this one apartment, when come to find out they actually have 6. And you wouldn't know that. So watching out for the hard sales people, non-negotiables like reimbursement of deposits, and not being able to negotiate some part of your scenario that you're looking at. People that are moving into the senior industry shop apartments and not care.
And the
That's a good
sociability,
one.
most likely. I mean, that's a lot of just when in our space, when we go to a listing presentation, people get so personal, right? They just lost their husband or they lost their wife, and they're selling maybe for the wrong reasons. You know,
Right.
that we're just so lonely. There's just nothing to do. I need to go to independent living, or I'm going to go to an apartment, 65 and older apartment building where there's amenities, or maybe I'll just
Yeah.
whatever.
Meals, housekeeping. Yeah.
Sociability is huge. I hear that that's probably our top 5. Which is
Yeah.
sadly, but when they start opening up to us, it's like, we're just lonely. You know, this is just, it has
Right.
nothing to do with keeping up with the house or keeping up with the yard. It's just,
Right.
I really need some human companionship.
Yeah, I get that. Not only do I have been doing this for 35 years, I was my parents' caregiver. My dad had dementia. My mom had Parkinson's. So I just don't know it professionally. I know it personally, all the way down to the core of managing their diseases, their environments, and making sure that I was fulfilling all of those aspects of their personal needs.
We're extremely grateful for you coming on our show. This has been excellent. I know you, and I know that we don't have a conversation without, something of this coming up, and the passion. I have a lot of passion with real estate. Obviously, you've got a ton of passion behind this, and we could totally blend our businesses, and not even on as much on a business level as just a value for our clients.
Value add, right?
For us at the Sears Group, and other agents that may listen to this as well, how can we get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I'm everywhere. You type in Tiffany Wright, Wright Way Senior Placement with the W. I named my business right after my name, so Wright with the W, Way Senior Placement. You can find me, but my number is 602-350-7069. Send me a text. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that's in the show notes below. Again, thanks so much for your time, Martin. Thank you.
You bet.
It was a pleasure. To our listeners, if this episode has been valuable to you, please share it, subscribe, like this video. If you are currently, in that age group where you're looking in maybe to your next living situation and you want to connect with Tiffany, feel free to reach out to us at the Sears Group or Tiffany directly. We'd be more than happy to serve you. And thanks for joining us today. And we will see you next time on Beyond the Sign. Real
Thanks,
people,
Tiffany.
real conversations, and real value. We'll see you next time.